Welcome to the Midwest Nowhere podcast. My name is Scott Thompson. I am your host. We are here at episode 8, which will be focusing on Help Wanted Nights by The Good Life, great band out of Nebraska. And before we get into that, I want to take a moment to mention the links in the description of this video. There's a Linktree that's got access to all of the social media accounts for Midwest Nowhere, adding to it the artists and their branches from there. But you can find me there, you can find our stuff there and our little merch shop and stuff like that, which I have a little sample from this week. I got the first coffee cup off of it. We're going to be taking some fancier pictures of it and doing some advertising, but you want to support the show? Get a coffee cup. With that, I think that's it for the links. Hit the subscribe button, smash the like button, leave me a comment, let me know what you think. That's got to be all the business. Things that have happened for Midwest Nowhere in the last 2 weeks. First biggest thing I think is that we got permission to release JT Fremont's back catalog. So we started with Songs in Black and White. That's out now if you haven't listened to it before. It's a collection of the earliest songs that I recorded with Jake from time we were living together in Burnsville back 2005 to 2007-ish. And I was going to school down in the cities for recording, so he became my test subject for a lot of the assignments and studio tests and things like that I did while I was there. And this Songs in Black and White is pretty much everything from recording at IPR using equipment I had no idea what I was doing with, and then getting Logic and using a laptop at the apartment that we had in Burnsville. And it was kind of like JT Fremont stuff and the beginning of the Robin Hood Hills demos was kind of what happened in that time period. So, but too, Swinota is like we're playing Jake songs in a full band fashion. So with that, if you dig into the back catalog of what he's got, you'll hear essentially original versions of some of the Swinota songs that we've played and are still playing and may come up in the future. You never know when some project will come up and we'll dig back, and who knows, Hoover Flags could end up being a super epic song, if we ever decide to tinker around with it more than we did back in the day. But you can listen to Songs in Black and White on YouTube, Spotify, Apple Music, Amazon Music. It's like 160 online stores. The most recent email I got said it's on Deezer. It really made me think I need to start figuring out what some of these other music streaming platforms are, because I use Spotify Premium for my album listening, and then I use YouTube on the fly a lot, but other than that I don't really use anything else. So I guess our Alexa in the kitchen kind of bounces around between Amazon Music and Spotify depending on what you try to get it to play, but I just don't know what a lot of them are. And DistroKid says that they distribute to 160 stores worldwide. I'd do myself a favor to learn what they are, probably. But check out Songs in Black and White. Look forward to, in the next 2 weeks, I'm going to push out Sexennial Rex. Within the next month or so, I want to get his single for Out of Touch that was on the first Discmill record sampler out again. And he sent me the cover for Heron, which no one has heard. Heron is a record that Anthony Hans and I started working on before Jake's daughter was born. We recorded it over a weekend, under pressure, because they were going to turn that room into Olive's nursery. And so 2017, I think we started working on, or no, was it 2011? I forget what the date was on the first file folder of that. I think the first major session was in 2011, and then the subsequent sessions were like 17, and then there was some touch-up days and stuff like that. And we've gone through so many rounds of mixing and mastering, and he finally said a couple weeks ago when we got together and talked about his back catalog, he said, let's just put it out. I think we'd have to ask the man himself, but the impression I get is Swinoda is the focus now. So why not share the work that's been done and let it be what it is and just move forward. So I've got the cover for that, and we'll do a little bit more teasing and bumping. I'd kind of like to play with the release schedule for Heron. You see a lot of things like people releasing in stages and stuff like that, and I'd like to see what kind of options I have with DistroKid. It'll give us a good kind of template for what we can do when the Swinoda record's done. So stay tuned for that. Other order of business, you may notice that my background has changed a bit. And if you follow us on Instagram or Facebook, I think it's on TikTok too. I don't think I uploaded all the pictures to X. But regardless, got rid of the bookshelf style vinyl record display, and we finally built a proper kind of record store style browsing bin, which I've had on my mind as a project forever. And we upgraded some appliances around the house this tax season, and as a result we ended up having a big rebate from Menards, as they do. And when it all came in, wife is just like, you've probably got more than enough that you need for the wood. Why don't you get your schematics out and your blueprints, whatever, and go get the wood for the browsing bin. And it was kind of funny because, you spend all this time thinking about it. You'd think you'd want to be a little measured with building it, but it was like, okay, we got the stuff. All right, let's start drawing. Let's start cutting. And we worked all night. We worked late, getting the boards in and all the stuff, and taking the boards to the basement, cutting them out and putting them together and getting the legs on. And then I stained it the very next morning. And that afternoon I was going to put another coat of stain on. She's like, I don't want it darker than this. This looks beautiful. So we just brought it in the house, and we put some supports on the side up against the wall behind me, just because she wanted pretty legs, but they're not, I don't know, they weren't rock solid. Definitely safe and stable enough, but some extra supports on the back wall along the corners of the browsing bin. It's like, now it's rock solid. Like, this whole thing, all the records could flop forward and it doesn't move. But I did have to vote some off the island too, though, because I thought that this would be big enough for the collection and we'd have room to grow, and it was not. So we brought that bookshelf downstairs. I've got kind of like a basement bargain bin. It's like, I put the 10 inches down there, and then I put basically everything that we've got that's just been like, when you get into buying records, it's like sometimes you just end up with stuff. Like one time we went to the Electric Fetus, and they have this thing for $5. It's a mystery bag, and it's got 15 records in it. And 2 of them will be winners and 13 of them will be stinkers. Well, you do that a few times, and friends and family, things of that nature, records just kind of come and go and move in all the years that I have and stuff like that. And now I've got this big stack of ones in the basement that I just don't necessarily want to throw out, but I haven't decided if they're going to end up in a Goodwill or what to do with them. But for now, at least they're down there, and we're kind of thinking what we'll do is we'll build another one, a bigger one, because she was worried that it would take up too much space, but it actually ended up, when it was done, it was smaller than she thought it would be. So she's thinking we can take this one downstairs when we build another one that's a little bit bigger, give ourselves some room to grow. But for now, to just finally be able to, because when you have your records all on a spine, like in a bookshelf thing like that, you can't see the spines on an LP that well. It's like you got this tiny little spot to maybe see what you have, and most of them get worn down. It's like one of the most vulnerable spots on a record is that thin spine. It's not like a CD case or a DVD case, And I just you lose track of what you have. You can't swim through it. You can't really look at, you can't enjoy your collection as much. Whereas when you set yourself up like this, it's like now you can flip through like you're just in a record store. And we're gonna get some like alphabetizing dividers. The collection's already alphabetized, but we want to get dividers so it's easier to like pinpoint where you're at. But yeah, it was real. It was difficult and it was fast, but it turned out really great. And it was definitely kind of a dream come true to get that project done. Something else that's been going on too, just in talking cassettes. I got my station wagon back this week, and it does have to go back to the shop again. I think I mentioned the story that it broke a serpentine belt on my way to a Swinota gathering. And I got it back this last Tuesday. It was running pretty good. And then Friday, it doesn't want to shift out of first now. So I have to putz it back to town and let them look at it some more and see what's going on. I'm hoping that it's not going to be trashed. But what's been cool about it is that it has a tape deck. It's a 1995 Ford Taurus station wagon. And cassettes have been kind of like this thing that have been coming up back and forth over the course of the last couple of years, honestly, because when we saw Dillinger 4, they had the band Getting Stabbed open for them, and they had a tape on their table, and I was just like totally confused. I had to buy it. They wanted like $5 for it. It was nothing. And I just thought it was so cool that they had a tape. And then recently when we saw Tiny Moving Parts and Oyster World open for them, they didn't have anything on their merch. They didn't even have a merch table. But when I got online, I found their Bandcamp, and they had a tape on there. So I was like, well, we wanted to put money in their till anyway because we just thought they were so great. And so what did I do? I bought Sam I Am's Astray. I found that on the Hopeless website for $8. It's a red tape. Like, that's so cool. So now I've got this box of cassettes that basically, it was a swap and sell find for like $2, and it was full of tapes, but it was a traveling case, and that's what I really wanted for the car. I wanted a traveling case that I could fill with tapes that I really want to listen to. And I added one to it this week, getting not only the mail came, but also getting the car back. Hot Water Music's Feel the Void, which I wanted to say shout out to Merch Now, because the first copy of it that came in the mail was totally trash. Like, the plastic was ripped, the case was cracked, the cassette itself even had a pretty big hunk of plastic missing. The cover, like the little prongs were sticking through the artwork a little bit. Like, it was jacked up. And I was sitting on a little extra that day, and I was like, yeah, I'll pay the $1 insurance, whatever. Like, just not really thinking much about it. But they had the box automatically checked. So, I mean, normally I wouldn't really get too bent out of shape about something like that. But I was like, sure, whatever. Well, because it came all jacked like that, and I took pictures of it right away, sent it into Merch Now. Those guys got back to me like right away. And they're like, it did not leave the floor this way. This must have been in shipping. Please submit this to the insurance. I see you paid for it. We'll get you another copy on the house. No shipping, no nothing. So I gave the dinged up copy to Jake because I was like, somebody should have this. It's a Hot Water Music tape. It's a new Hot Water Music tape. I mean, Feel the Void is their second to newest album. And the replacement copy showed up. Listening to the tapes in the car, man, it's just, I don't know. There's something about it that just, it makes the car more of a like real time capsule, because all the interior is the same. Like, nothing on the car was ever updated, and then you just have this little box of tapes to pick from to listen to. It's just like, I don't know. It kind of sets the whole scene, and it sets the whole vibe in the car. And so through that, basically another project I've got going on is that I have all these old like country tapes and stuff like that, which I'll get into that later when I talk about what I currently been listening to. But Bright Eyes has got tapes out. Cursive's got tapes out. The Good Life has got tapes out. I mean, the list just goes on and on. And so I'm just going to kind of one by one just swap them out for stuff that I'm really into. And, you know, if you get a ride in Esmeralda, that's the name of this car, be listening to tapes. It's pretty cool. Something else that came up in the last couple of weeks, there was this article that came out about Record Store Day. Record Store Day was on the 12th. And so if you don't know what Record Store Day is, it started as this idea that physical media was scared, brick and mortar record stores were closing, and streaming was catching on. People didn't really know what to do. And so some people on the West Coast who owned record stores were like, we need to drum up business. We have this thing called Record Store Day. We can have bands do exclusive releases, and they can submit them to us in store. It'll drive traffic and make it so that people will just, get the foot traffic moving, give people a reason to show up. Well, that was a good number of years ago now. This article that I came across this week was talking about why Record Store Day has become the stupidest day of the year for being a music enthusiast or whatever, what have you. And I was surprised because I thought everybody loved Record Store Day. I don't exactly get all excited when I see a Record Store Day sticker, because to me, if it's a random day of the year and I'm in a record store and I see something with that sticker on it, I assume nobody wants it because they're supposed to be limited, and it's just, I don't know. And I don't usually see them on bands that I'm all that interested in. But I definitely haven't kept track of it or ever showed up on a Record Store Day to buy something specific. But I also live 3 hours away from any functioning record store. So it's just not something if you live out in the sticks like I do, man, this isn't really something that people have paid that much attention to or gotten all that excited about. But what the article's point is, the article's saying that Record Store Day has gotten kind of ruined because there's been a resurgence in vinyl. I mean, you can buy it at Walmart now, right? So that's its own thing. But then on the other hand, the majors have come back around to realizing that it pays to press vinyl. So what's happening? Record Store Day exclusives by major artists, right? An exclusive 7-inch by Taylor Swift. They're only going to print 5,000 copies and they're only going to be in store, whatever. And then other kitschy things or really novelty type items like your Bluey LPs, things of that nature. What was another example that they gave in the article? There was just some real goofy stuff. Some guys putting a song on one side and dogs barking on the other. Is this a great use of time and resources was kind of the argument. But also saying that with Record Store Day becoming what it has, become, and then there only being so many pressing plants and being so many people who are actually physically manufacturing records, what's starting to happen is there's this choking point where the pressing plants are spending all year pressing records for Record Store Day, and they're all these kind of either novelty records or they're records that are not really rare. Because if a record label say RCA has a ton of money and they're going to put out this limited edition Kings of Leon 7-inch, right? Well, that's not real. They're controlling a resource. It's not the same as finding one of 300 of a 7-inch that a big band put out 20 years ago. It's not the same amount of limited edition or scarcity. It's kind of it's kind of fake. It's kind of like a controlled limited edition scenario from people with a bunch of resources, right? And they're using that position to bogart the pressing plants. And so this guy's point in the article, which the article is linked to the description of this video because I knew I was going to get into it. I figured there'd be some that listen to this episode that might be interested in reading what this guy had to say about it. I will say when it was all said and done, I could understand the guy's point of view. I got why that's all problematic. At the same time, it gave me a big light, kind of a, light bulb that was like, we need more pressing plants. Clearly, the problem is that there's an interest, there's a market, there's a product, but there aren't enough people making it. So complaining about it or putting in some kind of artificial controls is, to me, dead in the water. It's not the solution. The solution is entrepreneurship. The answer has to be making more records and people being inspired enough, motivated enough, and willing to put the work into not only learning but also actually doing the physical labor of making the records. So my brain always gravitates towards a grandiose position, which is, how do I make a pressing plant? How do I go from 0 to 1,000 in half a second? And it's not possible for my position to just up and decide to start a pressing plant. That would be insane. But what I did learn about was my segue here into what's called lathe cut vinyl, which I did not know what that was until this week. And lathe cut vinyl, difference between pressing and lathe cut. So like a lathe cut is basically where I'm going to play my song off of my computer or whatever I recorded my song onto. It's going to go through some pieces of equipment that's going to go into a machine that physically cuts the record in real time. And if I'm only going to make a few of them, I can do that. There's people who do this. I found a whole swarm of these really small lathe cutting businesses that exist. And the equipment is approachable. You're talking about a few $1,000s versus a pressing machine alone is like $100,000. Not talking about the building and needing staff and needing to pay utilities and all that sort of stuff before you've even pressed a record. I mean, getting to a pressing plant stage is huge, probably multi-generational idea. Lathe cutting is like a couple of years. A person can set up some equipment, figure out how to lathe cut well. And so with that, got into talking with Spinoda this week, talking about doing a single on it, like a single-sided lathe cut 7-inch of just one song, one square printed out. They're not a lot to make. Just doing like 30 of them would really give us an opening to physical music. And I personally just really want to see one in person and listen to it. There's a stigma out there that lathe cut doesn't sound as good as pressed. Pressed being basically they cut like the lathe cut. They cut it the same way, but they cut into a piece of what they call lacquer. And from that lacquer is what they make the metal plates out of that they use for the pressing. So the process is really the same. It's just cutting into the record that you're physically selling in real time versus making one and then making plates from that and then being able to press as many as you want to. So some people think pressed is the only way to go. Some people don't know how to cut lathes very well. And so they will advertise their services as, this is novelty, this is lo-fi, this is a gimmick. And those are those are the lathe cutters that you definitely want to stay away from, because this isn't about making something that's low quality. This is about making something that's approachable for independent artists, that is high quality, and is physical. Something that you can sell on a merch table, because you can't sell a stream. And I don't think the streaming companies are ever going to change their mind into paying artists the rent that they're due. I just don't think that it's possible. I don't think that it's in their best interest. And streaming very well will never make the kind of personal impact in a person's life like a live performance, a t-shirt, a record, something tangible There has to be a tangible product. And I don't like necessarily that every band has to be a traveling t-shirt salesman. You know, I'm getting kind of burned out on the t-shirt thing. I think it's good to have one. It's cool to have a couple, but when I go to a merch table and I see a dozen shirts, I'm like, I feel like I just walked into a department store. At the same time, I mean, a band's got to sell something. Vinyl's difficult, sure. But I don't know. The merch thing is just, it's tough. Maybe they should sell coffee cups. I think this coffee cup's like the coolest thing that I've put my hands on in a long time. I'm real happy about the coffee cup. And, you know, Callous Dow Boys sell hot sauce. That's like the greatest merch item I think I've ever bought, period. And it's delicious. It's so good. It's such a good sauce. Blackberry ivermectin. 10 out of 10. Just love it. But, yeah. A small band, instead of just throwing everything up on streaming and hoping for the best, you know, yeah, put it up on the streaming. Like, be available for sure. I think be available, right? But do a lathe cut. Do one song. Do a one-sided. They're not that much, and you don't have to ask a huge amount of money for them to be able to not only break even but have enough money left over to make another one. And you know, it's where I've suggested starting. You can make cassettes these days too. That's the thing. I've looked at cassette manufacturing. We've been talking about the demo version of the album for Swinoda. I'm looking at Midwest Nowhere, and I'm looking at the catalog, and I'm saying what songs would look cool on a lathe, on a single. What about Shakes? What about Tired? What about 21 Minutes? What about some of this stuff that's just like they stand alone well? They're never going to probably be re-recorded. They don't need to be. Just put it on a lathe. Let it be what it is. Make 30 of them and just be satisfied with that. You know, we'll see what happens. They're not all 7 inches. You can do lathe cuts in 10s and 12s. You can package them in LP jackets just like everything else. And if they're done by a high quality company, do your research. Understand that there's people who take the art seriously and there's some people who think that it's not. You find a good lathe cutter and it will sound just as good as a pressed record, and they will stand up test of time. They're solid records. So I'm looking forward to getting my hands on one. That's it. That's my updates. You know, tomorrow's Swinoda Day. Mondays are our nights, and we haven't been able to get together for the last couple of weeks. We had just people were busy. And tomorrow will be the first time that Tyler said, when we bowled a couple weeks ago, he said he was ready to pick up some drumsticks. He wants to try it. Doctors have basically told him, you're not going to know until you do it. You're not going to be able to know what you can tolerate until you try. And so we're going to go low and slow, man, but Swinoda might be coming back at it. Might be coming back hard, too. Atwater wants us for a show. Of course, Minnesota Beer Company. God, miss those guys. It feels like it's been forever, and it's only been a few months, you know. But we did 18 shows in a year, and the Richards never did that. The Robin Hood Hills got close, maybe. Not quite. Maybe half, you know. This has been productive, and this has been very fulfilling. And we all just can't wait to get back to it. Thank God Tyler made it through this, and that he's going to see life on the other side of it. So with that being said, we're going to move on to our deep dive into the Good Life's album, Help Wanted Nights. So, first and foremost, I think I mentioned this before, but I'll mention it again. I bought this record in Bozeman, Montana, living in Big Sky. Didn't have a lot of money during that whole time period, and didn't really didn't live well enough to take care of much. But you know, this record always reminds me of going to the shop in it wasn't Cactus Records, but it was the other shop that was across town that had a bunch of, it felt like a Best Buy, but it wasn't really a Best Buy. It was I think it was an independent shop, but they had a little bit of everything, and they had records. and they didn't have a lot, but for some reason they had ones we wanted. It was weird. And I remember me and Benno both having $10 to our name and this record being $20. And it came with I think there was a CD in it, or it was a digital download. One or the other. Benno said, "I'll take that. You hold on to the LP." And we called that a deal and picked this up. We picked it up together, And we loved Album of the Year. Jake had it. And we burned that thing so hard. We just loved Album of the Year. And this one was like a departure. That one felt like a concept really from top to bottom. And this one was like folky, alt country kind of, looser. And but the lyrics, so many lines from this have stuck with me my whole life because it's just such great songwriting. And Tim Kasher is one of my favorites. So with that being said, give you a little bio on The Good Life. They are an indie rock band from Omaha, Nebraska, who formed in the early 2000s as a side project for Tim Kasher, who's the front man of the post-hardcore group Cursive. While Cursive focused on intense, emotionally raw post-punk, The Good Life was conceived as a softer and more introspective outlet, embracing indie folk, alt country, and chamber pop influences. It was originally a solo venture. The Good Life grew into a full band featuring a rotating lineup of Saddle Creek Records regulars, including Ryan Fox, Roger Lewis, and Stephanie Druten Cincinnati. The band was known for their storytelling lyrics, exploring themes of love, loss, self-destruction, and redemption with wit and melancholy. Their discography includes standout albums like Album of the Year, which came out in 2004, and Help Wanted Nights. This record came out in 2007, both of which showcase Kasher's signature lyric style and a knack for weaving deeply personal narratives. The band went on hiatus in 2007, but then with Everybody's Coming Down in 2015, they embraced a more energetic and experimental sound, which I have not listened to, but guess what? It's on tape. They got a cassette of that one on their Bandcamp, and I mean, it's been tough. There's so many that, like, I can't say what's on top of the list, but it's on the list, if I could say that. The Good Life continues to hold a cult following for their emotional honesty, clever songwriting, and unique blend of indie rock and Americana vibes. So that's just kind of a little introduction to The Good Life, a little bio about those guys. And yeah, we just loved Cursive so much growing up. I remember Jake downloading a couple of MP3s of The Martyr and The Casualty, and it was just like, what is this? Like, could not get our heads wrapped around this style and the delivery and the lyrical content. We just had never heard anything quite like that before. Through Cursive, getting into Bright Eyes and the whole Saddle Creek thing. And I mean, Saddle Creek was a big label for us throughout high school. We listened to a lot of the records from that time period and from those artists. And then when Album of the Year came out and we all got to listening to that, it was just like, it sounds like Cursive if Cursive was Bright Eyes, but at the same time different and focused and really, really special. We just always really loved everything that Tim Kasher's done, and The Good Life is this kind of like really special time, this special piece of his collection of work. Interesting things to note about this record. Of course, we got to do a top 10. So this record has a screenplay origin. So the frontman, Tim Kasher, wrote a screenplay titled Help Wanted Nights, which served as a counterpart to the album. The story unfolds over a week in a small town bar where a stranger's car breaks down, leading him to engage deeply with the local patrons. While the screenplay was completed and there were discussions about producing a film, it ultimately was not made. Kasher has mentioned that Help Wanted Nights was his first completed script and has expressed interest in seeing it produced in the future, much to my wife's dismay. We'll get into that later. The album reflects the screenplay's themes by focusing on broader ideas and emotional landscapes rather than a linear narrative. Kasher aimed to create songs that complemented the screenplay's mood and setting, resulting in a collection that captures the essence of the story through music. Kasher eventually brought one of the screenplays to life in a feature film. In 2017, he wrote, directed, and composed the score for No Resolution, making it his debut as a filmmaker. The film explores the unraveling of a couple's relationship over New Year's Eve, delving into themes of commitment and emotional turmoil. It premiered at the Omaha Film Festival in 2016 before its wider release, which I have seen. And if you like Tim Kasher's work, you have to watch No Resolution. I loved it. I would watch it again any day. Somebody says they want to put it on, I would be there for it. I paid to rent it off of Amazon, I think. Not sure where it would be these days, but it'd be, honestly, a physical copy on the shelf, just for preservation's sake. I should get my hands on one. My wife, on the other hand, any time that movie comes up, she thought it was the biggest piece of crap she'd ever seen in her entire life. And she was angry. She was angry about it. She kept, wanting it to get better. And she felt like it was nothing happened. Like it was just a whole hour and a half or so of just nothing. And she was, I think she went on her Facebook and actually yelled at the universe about how much she hated this movie and how much of a waste of time she thought it was. She actually thought that it meant that she hated Tim Kasher. I walk through the kitchen and I hear The Recluse come on, or From the Hips, or whatever, from Cursive. And I'm like, you like Tim Kasher, you do. She's like, he's got a couple good songs, but nothing justifies that movie. I should not have had to sit through that. That is not fair. I feel like if you're listening to this and you have not seen No Resolution, you owe it to yourself to watch it. I'd love to hear your review of it in the comments on this video, because I loved it. And my wife, to this day, I was just talking to her about this movie today because I was getting ready for this episode. She's like, God help you if you talk to people about that movie, because it is the biggest piece of crap I've ever seen. I was like, I strongly disagree. I thought it was fantastic. More recently, though, Kasher completed a second feature film titled Who's Watching? It was released in 2024. I did not know this. The project further showcases his talents as a writer, director, and composer, solidifying his multifaceted role in the indie art scene. So, while his earlier screenplay, Help Wanted Nights, was never produced, its narrative and themes directly inspired The Good Life's 2007 album of the same name. The album serves as a thematic companion to the unproduced film, reflecting Kasher's storytelling prowess across different mediums. Finding out that new movie is out lit me up. I was so happy to hear that, and it scared the crap out of my wife because she does not want to be subjected to another Tim Kasher film. But I tell you what, I told her I'm going to watch this thing alone. I don't give a crap. It's fine. But yeah, Who's Watching? Got to look into it. Got to find out where to watch that, because one, got to support the guy's work. Two, like I said, the first one was great. No Resolution's fantastic. I'm sure Who's Watching is even better, because you know how it is. Think about it. We've talked about this 3 thing with the bands. Okay, Help Wanted Nights, rough sketch, didn't quite get there. Oh, No Resolution, he crossed the finish line, he made a movie. Who's Watching? I bet this thing is awesome. I bet he's in the groove now. I bet he's ready to roll. Regardless, some people will never be convinced. My wife is one of them. Conceptual shift. Unlike the previous record, Album of the Year, which followed a linear narrative, Help Wanted Nights focuses on capturing fleeting moments and exploring broad themes rather than detailed storytelling. And they kind of mentioned that previously with the idea of it being a screenplay. It doesn't read like a story as much when you're listening to it front to back. It's more like, imagine if there was 10 pictures of like a scene, and each song is like the impression you get from those scenes, but it doesn't very like clearly follow any sort of storyline. The musical style on this record is another interesting fact. The album leans more towards what they're calling countrypolitan, indie folk. I'd never heard that word before, countrypolitan. But it was influenced by Casher's move from Omaha to LA. And it features shimmering guitars and spacious arrangements, reflecting a much more mature musical direction. And for the recording approach, the band aimed for a stripped down, raw sound, drawing inspiration from classic albums like the Go-Go's, Beauty and the Beat. They sought to capture a garage band feel, moving away from the heavily layered instrumentation. Yeah, it's kind of like with the difference between like Dylan's early stuff and the Beatles' wall of sound. This has a lot more space and a lot more room for the instruments to do their own things. Everything kind of has its own area of where you can really pick out all the pieces, and it's just very clean and clear that way. But it's also it's not over polished by any means. I think it's well done, but it's pretty raw and authentic as well. The release date, so this record came out in 2007 on September 11th. Saddle Creek put it out. The album was available on multiple formats: digital download, CD, and vinyl. The vinyl edition is particularly notable for its 180-gram clear vinyl with pink and white swirls, offering both a visual appeal and high-quality sound. Some retailers have listed it as white. However, this may refer to the dominant color in the pattern swirl and could indicate, or it could indicate a different pressing. Tough to say. For those interested in purchasing, the vinyl edition is available through various retailers, and the band still has it up on their Bandcamp as well. Before we get into the studio stuff, why don't we go ahead and open this up, because since they're talking about the color, mine is worth noting. I think the artwork really plays to the idea of it being a screenplay as well. And I guess I didn't realize that it was a script before, but now it's saying, like, it has all of these notes about like what kind of audio would be there, what's the visual that you're seeing. It's like a screen, like what would you say, storyboarding, kind of the idea of the story that they're telling. And the back, even with the track listing, has a similar kind of appearance where it looks like it would be almost a mock-up if you were going to do a storyboard for a show or a movie. And mine is that color that they're not sure about, because it is white, but it is definitely 180 gram. It is a thick, heavy record, and they there's a couple little spots in there of black and some smears and stuff like that. It's not perfectly pitch white, but maybe in the pressing they meant for it to be swirled, and then some of them came out not so swirled, and some of them came out more swirled than others. But mine came out almost perfectly pitch white. Something to know about 180 gram vinyl too, about twice as thick as a normal record. They say that it gives the record more, gives the needle more to work with. They're more durable in the long term, stuff like that. Some people say they think they sound better. Some people say that it doesn't matter. I don't know. 180 gram vinyl, when I see it, or 150 too. You see 150 and you see 180, and neither one of those makes me want to buy a record any more or less. It's more or less just kind of something that I note about it, but that's it. And the insert has got another picture, another like storyboard type picture, guy changing the sign outside of the Sundowner bar. It says help wanted nights, and we got a lyric sheet. So pretty simple package, but it's classy. It's a nice nice package altogether, and I think the 180 gram vinyl kind of, I don't know. This one in particular, it just always feels really solid. I wouldn't say that it's necessarily a bad thing. Like I say, I don't see I wouldn't see two records next to each other. One's 180 gram, one's not. One's $10 more than the other one. Am I going to spend $10 more for 180 grand or 180 grams? I don't particularly care. But if I buy a record that I was going to buy anyway, and I open it and it happens to be 180 and say it wasn't labeled, but I can feel it, it's like, okay, well, that's cool. I don't know. What do you think? Drop a comment. Let me know what you think of it. How many grams does it take? So in talking about where this record was made, it was recorded at Arc Studios in Omaha, intermittently between January and April in 2007. It was produced by Mike Mogus. Whenever you're talking Saddle Creek, Bright Eyes, Cursive, The Good Life, Mike Mogus's name comes up a lot. He's a predominant figure in the Omaha music scene and a frequent collaborator with Saddle Creek record artists. Some fun things to know about the studio. The name ARC, A-R-C, stands for Another Recording Company, a self-effacing nod to its unassuming presence in Omaha's indie scene. It was built in 2006 by Mike Mogus, and ARC Studios located in Omaha's Fair Acres neighborhood. The complex includes Mogus's family residence, a house for the visiting bands, and the studio facility. Sounds a lot like Pachyderm. It has a legendary console there. It's a Neve console. Studio A houses a Neve 8048 console, originally commissioned by the Beatles producer George Martin for Air Studios in London. It's a rare piece of equipment that contributes to ARC's high-quality sound production. Neve consoles, from my understanding, their preamps and the channel strips are, they were used a lot in radio broadcast. Like, you're talking beginnings of pumping out sound through radio waves. And these are tanks as far as the music industry goes. They're very well sought after. They're very difficult to replicate. And when you go into a studio and you see that it's a Neve, you know that you're going to get, I would say, very accurate representations of your sound source. So whatever it is that you're recording, however it sounds in the room, that thing is going to do a great job at really getting accurate sound of what that is. They have their own color, but it's desirable. It's just very, there's something about the way sound processes through those boards that makes people happy. They also have a small studio off to the side. Their Studio B is a more affordable option for other artists, and it's managed by the engineer Ben Broden, and has hosted numerous Nebraska artists, providing a space where creativity meets technical excellence. Sounds like a cool place to tour. We should go check that out. And really, Omaha, it's 8 hours south. It's not bad. It's not as far as, in my mind, I think that we're in the middle of nowhere, and the only places we can go are Fargo and Minneapolis. But we're going back to Chicago again. Chicago's 8 hours east. Omaha's 8 hours south. I mean, can get around. ARC's reputation extends beyond the U.S. International bands have traveled to Omaha to record there, attracted by the studio's blend of world-class equipment and relatively affordable rates. Mogus is a featured, Mogus was featured on this record as the engineer and the producer. So I just thought we'd talk about him a little bit, because Mike Mogus is an American producer, engineer, and multi-instrumentalist, renowned for his pivotal role in shaping the indie music scene, particularly through his work with the Saddle Creek artists. He was born in 1974 in North Platte, Nebraska, which is like an hour north of where my sister lives. And Mogis began recording music with his brother, AJ Mogis, at a young age. The duo founded Presto Recording Studios, which became a cornerstone for many indie artists in the region. That was where they said the Bright Eyes record was made that we just talked about. Mogis is best known for being a permanent member in the band Bright Eyes and contributing as a guitarist and a multi-instrumentalist with that group. He's also been a part of other musical projects, including the Monsters of Folk and Lullaby for the Working Class. Both I need to do homework on. Production and engineering. Beyond performing, Mogis has an extensive portfolio as a producer and engineer. He's worked on albums for such artists as The Faint, Rilo Kiley, Cursive, The Good Life, Jenny Lewis, and Tilly and the Wall, which I've got one of their records up here too. Maybe a fun one to dig into. It's almost goofy and indie in the sense of like clap your hands, say yeah, but it's a little bit more pop sensible than those guys were. Film and soundtrack work. I thought this was cool. He's also expanded into working on film with Nate Wilcott, who they together composed the soundtrack for the 2014 movie The Fault in Our Stars, which, if you know teenage girls at all, they love The Fault in Our Stars. And the fact that Mike Mogis did some work on the soundtrack for that movie kind of blew my mind. Mogis continues to influence the music industry through his multifaceted roles as a musician, producer, and engineer, leaving a lasting impact on the indie music landscape. So, there's your 101 on Mike Mogis. Super cool dude, super busy guy, been a part of some really influential stuff. Number 6. Okay, so the critical reception, the album received generally favorable reviews with a Metascore of 61 based on 13 critic reviews. The track listing, it's got 10 tracks on it. Some of the notable songs being On the Picket Fence, Heartbroke, and Rest Your Head. Closes the album out with, Rest Your Head is 10 minutes and 44 seconds. And I wanted to make a special note of this because on the vinyl version, it ends with a locked groove, or what I call an infinity loop, at the end of side B. So that 10 minutes and 44 seconds that Rest Your Head is, that's the CD version. Because the vinyl version is technically, till you take the needle off, it's like the needle slips into this spot that's got a little bit of audio right there, and it just goes around and around, and it never stops until you stop it. But yeah, they call it a lock groove. And that's on the end of side B for this record. And it creates a repeating loop that plays endlessly until the listener lifts the needle, which ties beautifully into the album's theme of cyclical behavior, emotional stasis, and the idea of being stuck in a place or a state of mind. It's a very clever little touch, especially fitting the concept of the album being tied to a screenplay, like a screen that never ends unless the viewer decides to walk away. The lock grooves, which I call infinity loops, are a cool little, they have a cool little history behind them that I wanted to dive into as well. So I kind of described what it is. A lock groove is a groove on a record where it plays in a short loop over and over instead of continuing on into the center. They can occur at the end of a record to keep the stylus from drifting, or in the middle as a deliberate repeating sound loop to like mess with people, because why not? The origin and the function. So early records had a lock groove to prevent the needle from skating across the label after playing. And then Mechanical Solution eventually made it. It's a creative opportunity for artists and engineers. So when has it been used other than, when they technically needed one to keep the needle from going onto the paper? In the 70s, they started doing them intentionally. The Beatles, Sgt. Pepper's Lonely Hearts Club Band, the original UK Vinyl ends with a bizarre looped snippet of gibberish after the final chord of A Day in the Life. Monty Python also did it in '73, matching tie and handkerchief. Famously included multiple grooves on the same side. Depending where the needle landed, you'd hear a different track, so that's pretty cool. But then also Tool did it on the end of their first record, Opiate. It ends with a lock groove that makes it like an never-ending drone that just goes on and on and on. Also, Godspeed You Black Emperor, F sharp, A sharp, infinity. The title literally includes the infinity symbol, and the album ends with a lock groove drone. So that's pretty cool. In DJ culture, techno and experimental artists pressed lock grooves into their records with rhythmic or percussive loops, making it great for beat matching and layering in live sets. That makes a lot of sense. I always kind of wondered about that. Like, maybe they picked a spot on a record that's got a beat, but what do they do when the song keeps playing? Well, if they press a record, say they did a lathe cut even, just I need one copy of this record that's got these drum beats on it, and I'm going to put so many lock grooves in it or whatever, they could snag the beat from that, and then on the other side they could add something else for live DJing. There's a lock and key moment. That's pretty cool. Today, locked grooves are rare but beloved Easter eggs in vinyl culture. They create a physical symbol of repetition or eternity, like the Good Life's usage on Help Wanted Nights, reinforcing the album's emotional and thematic loop. So there you go. That's what a lock groove is. I'll stop calling them infinity loops now that I know what it is. It's good stuff. Number 8. Lyrical themes. So Casher employs lyrical puns and extended metaphors to delve into the themes of love gone awry, showcasing his penchant for language play throughout the whole album. And so I just, like I usually do, I picked out some lines. It's really hard, and I was talking to my wife about this today too, because this is one record that she doesn't know that well. But I kind of learned it at a, pretty important part of my life, and it's a record that I've continually listened to through the years. I don't think a year's gone by that I haven't at least put it on once and really listened to it, because I return to it a lot because I love it so much. And as far as trying to choose a certain one-liners, it's not a one-liner type record. It's like I find myself, if I start at one word, I have to go through almost to the end, because so much of it is so poetic and so well written. I could read out the whole lyric sheet and feel that it's all special, but I tried my best to limit myself to some what I find really important stanzas and some really important lines, at least to me, that stand out. On a Picket Fence, just how the whole album opens, it speaks deeply to what he's trying to get across throughout the whole album. He says, "Things are good. We should take a Polaroid, a memento, before the moment's destroyed. We constantly bicker, these flickering moods. We're hardly making any sense. Either you love me or you leave me. Don't you leave me on this picket fence." I mean, it's just heartbreaking, man. The song, I want to say If You Feel Like Coming Home, but that's not what it's called. It's called You Don't Feel Like Home to Me. It's the closing track on side A, or no, a second to last song on side A. But it's halfway through the record because there's 10 tracks. But the way that in that song he says, "If you feel like coming home to me sometime," and he just repeats that, the way that melody and those words in that moment and what he's explaining, it's just, it's so just, it's heartbreaking, man. And there's a part of one of those verses that I think that if you ever been through some nasty situations, you can really you can empathize with where he's at in the situation. From that song, he says he sees her face in the highway signs, the traffic lights, and she's turning red on a motel on a double bed, and he swears he can feel her lying there. Just sick. Casher's sick, man. The more you get into him, he's a sick guy. And honestly too, I try to keep this to be as clean of a show as I can, unless the lyrical content or something that's directly related warrants any sort of whatever language, because I never know who's listening, and I don't want somebody to feel like they need to shut something off for any reason. I got little ones around, I understand. But you cannot talk about this record without this bit from this song a little bit more. Track 2. And he says, I never knew what I was missing. Frankly, I was better off. You let me drink from your cup, and now I don't know how to stop. You finally had me thinking I was special, but you're a liar and a whore, and it makes me want you just a little bit more. I mean, and when he delivers it, I'm telling you, you put this record on and you get into the lyric sheet, man, he just lays it bare. He says it the way that if you've ever been in a scenario similarly, you wish you would have thought of it that way, that you could have said it that eloquently and been so confident in that delivery, the way that he lays it out. Beautiful lyrics the whole album through. Can't deny it. Track 9. Point number 9. We're just going to talk about the tour a little bit, because I always find it interesting to know not only where they were, when they were, but also who they were with. Following the album's release, The Good Life embarked on a U.S. tour from September to December of 2007, followed by performances across mainland Europe. In the U.S. tour, they were supported by Georgie James and Zookeeper, 2 artists I've never heard of, but what do we got to do? We got to get a couple small bios, because that's going to be like a big preview into next week's listening for sure. So Georgie James is an indie pop rock duo from Washington, D.C. They were active from 2005 to 2008. The band consists of John Davis, former drummer of the post-punk band Q and Not You, hello, and Laura Burhen, the songwriter who has released solo work under her own label, Laboratory Records. They bonded over a shared appreciation for classic pop music from the 50s to the 70s and began collaborating, with Davis handling guitars, bass, and drums, and Burhen on Rhodes electric piano. The debut album, Places, was released in 2007 on Saddle Creek Records. The touring lineup expanded to include members Michael Cotterman, who played bass, and Andrew Black played drums for him. The duo disbanded in 2008, with Davis forming Title Tracks and Burhen starting the Mina Birds. So a whole little network of bands to get into there, but really interesting, and a Saddle Creek project that I have not heard, which is kind of rare. I thought that I was pretty familiar with just about everything they put out, especially from that time period, but I did not. No, Georgie James is new by me. So that's cool to know that they were on the Good Life tour supporting for this record. And then Zookeeper is an indie pop project of Chris Simpson, known for his work with influential emo band Mineral. I have a 7-inch that Mineral's on. It's a split with Jimmy Eat World and one other band. All 3 of them are on it. Something Static. I don't remember. But Mineral, they have a cover of crazy for feeling. But it's nasty. It's really like it's like a Sonic Youth with the feedback and the noise and all that stuff. Mineral, I've never dug into them, but having that one song, it was like the first record I put on. It was like early into buying vinyl. It was like the second record I bought because I had a Hot Water Music 7-inch. It was like the Where We Belong 7-inch, and then I bought this at Hot Topic, and I only bought it because Jimmy Eat World was on it, and it's got a rare tune on there. But then this Mineral song takes up the whole other side. It's super long, super drawn out, super feedback, squealy, squonky, and this guy's just moaning the song, crazy for feeling so blue, but he's like just honking, and I just was like, why would they do this? Like, who would spend their time making something like this to just annoy the hell out of people? But their name comes up so often, and I'm really glad that came up because I've wanted to dig into them previously, and I've just never spent the time, and I think Mineral is one that's I need to put on the list. Anyway, I need to start from the top because reading that band name just sent me down a rabbit hole. But Zookeeper was the indie pop project of Chris Simpson, known for his work with the influential emo band Mineral and the more atmospheric The Gloria record. Formed around 2004 in Austin, Texas, Zookeeper allowed Simpson to explore a broader musical palette, incorporating elements of folk, pop, and experimental sounds. The project released an EP and a full-length album, showcasing Simpson's introspective songwriting and diverse music instrumentation. Zookeeper was active until around 2014, after which Simpson continued his musical journey under the name Mountain Time. So, another little network of bands to get into, things to check out, homework to do, if you could just. So, I was also curious, when they toured, did they come through Minneapolis? Well, it just so happens that they did. September 27th of 2007, which that date was why I saw a comment when I posted that I was filming this episode from our good friend Tony Williamette at Minnehaha Recording in Minneapolis. He commented just that he loves this album, and it doesn't surprise me because one of the key reasons that he and I hit it off as friends when we were in college was because we both love the work of Alkaline Trio and Saddle Creek. That's the two things I remember about Tony and what we had in common and what we respected as far as what we quantified as good. We kind of agreed on that. And he told me, I remember him telling me at some point that when we were going through school that he saw Tim Kasher. Now, I don't remember if it was a Cursive show or if it was a Good Life show, but I remember him telling me that he saw Kasher at the Triple Rock and he was out of his mind, hysterical. Like, not hysterical. Like, I want to say bewitched. Like, he made him sound like he was in rare form, put it that way, standing on top of the bar in the back of the venue. The stage is in the front, the floor is there, and then the bar was in the back. And Kasher apparently was like in the back, standing on top of the bar, just screaming the lyrics to whatever song they were doing. And I remember I didn't go. And I don't remember if it's because I was too broke, or I didn't know about it in time, or if I had to work, or what my excuse was, but I just remember Tony telling me he was there, and I remember being real sad that I wasn't. And I think it might have been this show. So I commented on his post on Facebook, or his comment saying that he loved this record, because I think this might have been the show, because it was September, which we graduated from IPR in October. And so we were still in school. Not for long, but close. And it was at the Triple Rock that they played. So glad that the Triple Rock comes up, because how many people have an excuse to talk about the Triple Rock very often? Well, if you're not from here and you don't know, The Triple Rock was like second to First Avenue, I would say, as far as level of importance goes when it comes to venues. In some ways, the Triple Rock might have been more important because the First Avenue includes a lot of scenes, and the Triple Rock was for us. Like, the Triple Rock was for punk, hardcore, indie, emo, deathcore. I mean, everything, all of the alternative, like, adjacent type genres, the bands that haven't and very well never will break through in a major way. The Triple Rock was home for a long time. We loved that place a lot. And I went there in high school for shows, and I went there in college for shows. I left, and it is closed. So let's do a little story time. Let's talk about the Triple Rock. So the Triple Rock was a beloved music venue in Minneapolis, known for its intimate atmosphere and supportive indie bands and punk rock acts. It operated from 1998 until its closure in 2017. Hosted The Good Life during that tour, adding to its legacy of influential artists in a close-knit setting. Eric Funk, guitarist and vocalist for the Minneapolis punk rock band Dillinger 4, co-owned the Triple Rock Social Club along with his wife, Gretchen Funk. The venue opened its doors on December 4th, 1998 at 629 Cedar Avenue in Minneapolis. It quickly became a cornerstone of the local punk and indie music scene. The Funk duo envisioned the space that combined live music with a welcoming atmosphere, offering both performances and a menu that catered to various dietary preferences, including vegetarian and vegan options. The Triple Rock was renowned for its intimate setting and its eclectic lineup, hosting both emerging local acts and emerging local acts and established national acts. Its significance in the music community was such that it was immortalized in the song by NoFX, Seeing Double at the Triple Rock. And they filmed a music video for it as well. After nearly 2 decades in operation, the club closed. After the closure, the building was slated to be converted into a restaurant and banquet hall, marking the end of an era as a venue that was instrumental in nurturing Minneapolis punk and indie music scenes. The Triple Rock officially closed its doors on November 22nd after nearly 2 decades, and the owners didn't provide a specific reason for the closure, but Eric Funk mentioned that the decision was made on their own terms, stating, "It's super sad, but it's not going down in flames. It's ending on its own terms." This suggests that the closure was a personal decision rather than due to external pressures. The venue's final show featured performances by Negative Approach and Dillinger 4. The event was a heartfelt farewell with tributes from various artists and a strong sense of community among the attendees. Man, Jake saw the Hold Steady at their first show there. Saw Cursive and the Blood Brothers there. Saw the Get Up Kids, Recover. Saw Against Me probably half a dozen times there. Saw the Blood Brothers there. I saw Hot Water Music there. And then I saw, when we saw Tiny Moving Parts there, it was like seeing our friends there. Remember the last time we tried to go to the Triple Rock? Me and Benno had tickets to go see Modern Life is War. And we had the tickets. I picked them up. We went, sat in the bar for 2 hours wondering why the show wasn't starting. And then the bartender finally tells us, he's like, "You guys didn't see on the website that show's canceled." It's like, no. No. I drove 3 hours to be here. We were wondering what was going on. And they did a half-room show for free if you had a ticket for the Modern Life is War show. Modern Life is War had a family crisis. Something came up on tour. They had to go home. And we were real obsessed with their record, Midnight in America. And, gosh, it was so long ago. I remember Liam wasn't here yet. That's how long ago that was. So 10 years, the kid just turned 10. And so, but anyways, they did a half room, Arms Aloft, pop punk band from Minneapolis. Great dudes. Never met, never knew them, never heard of them, never nothing, but we were there, so we stuck around. And they closed their little set. I mean, it was like Arms Aloft on the, like, up by the bar, just a half room show. Never seen anything like it before in all my years of going there. And they showed up. They just played like a half-hour set. We all stood in like a half circle, like we're in the basement at Calvin's place, or we're like in some of these like garage, shows that we've done and stuff like that. And Arms Aloft plays 30 minutes, and the last song they did a cover of Taylor Swift's "Shake It Off," pop punk, and it was just a riot. It was so much fun. Triple Rock was a special place. I had a lot of respect for it. And cool to know that when they came through Minneapolis promoting this record, that's where they played. On that note, the last thing that I wanted to touch base on for this record, I mentioned in the beginning of the biography that this is kind of a side project for Tim Kasher, started off as a solo project, and then before you know, rolled into a whole thing in and of itself. Well, initially it was conceived as a solo project for Kasher to explore non-cursive material. The Good Life evolved into a full band, allowing for more ambitious projects like this record, Help Wanted Nights. So I'm asking, how did that all happen? When Tim Kasher first started The Good Life, it was intended as a side project from his main band, Cursive. The idea was to explore softer, more introspective material, a contrast to Cursive's more angular, aggressive post-hardcore sound. So it was kind of like a few phases. So phase one was like the solo record. The debut album, Novena on a Nocturne, came out in 2000, and it was mostly a solo project. It features Kasher working with various artists from the Saddle Creek Circle, but it was essentially his own personal vision, almost like an outlet for songs that didn't fit with Cursive. Phase 2 was collaborators becoming bandmates. So by the time Blackout in 2002 came out, The Good Life had already started to solidify as a band. Kasher brought in close Saddle Creek collaborators like Ryan Fox, Roger Lewis, and Stephanie Druten to help flesh out the sound with keyboards, bass, and a more lush arrangements. So why was there a shift? Kasher's a natural collaborator, and the shift from solo to band reflected a desire to tour and perform live more easily, the benefits of musical chemistry, working with people that you trust creatively, and a growing confidence in The Good Life as a standalone project, not just a Cursive offshoot. So by album 3, by album of the year, The Good Life was clearly a real band with recurring members and a cohesive sound. It became more than just a side project. It was a platform for telling emotionally complex, conceptual stories, often through lush, narrative-driven songwriting. By the time Help Wanted Nights dropped in 2007, The Good Life had its own identity, still led by Kasher's voice and lyrics, but carried by a full band dynamic that added depth and color. It's a perfect case for a side project growing into its own skin. So that's that. That's a wrap. Help Wanted Nights is definitely one of my favorite records, and it's one that I think people who like country, especially like the newer style, kind of like alternative country, I think that Tim Kasher's work is worth a listen for sure, and this particular record in and of itself, it has a way, certain records really paint a picture and they leave like an impression of a mood and a feeling, and you can almost visualize a scene in your mind when you think about it or you talk about it. That's what this record really does, is it does a very good job at standing on its own as you couldn't really say that there's another record that it's copying or another idea that they're lifting from this way or that way, at least from my perspective. Help Wanted Nights stands alone on its own as something just very unique and special. And definitely glad to spend some time getting to know it a little bit better, getting to know some of the background. You know, I felt like I knew a lot about Kasher before, but it's not until I pick these records out of the blue like this and really dissect them that I feel like I get to know them so much better. So with that, I'm going to get ready to wrap this episode up. I've got a little bit longer of a list as far as what I've been listening to for the last couple weeks. This podcast has really got me just... If there's one thing I'm grateful for, it's being more intentional with my listening. I definitely have a reason to pick what I pick, pay attention to what I'm listening to, and really just being a more critical listener. This podcast has given me a lot of great things so far, and I appreciate y'all that have been listening. I see the Rumble audience is growing. It seems like the YouTube audience is kind of quieting down, and the Rumble people are showing up. Almost 10 times as many people listened to the last episode on Rumble as they did on YouTube. So cheers to you guys, because I use Rumble a lot too. That's why I upload to it, and I'm glad that y'all are checking that out. But regardless, things I've been listening to for the last couple of weeks, I had to revisit JT Fremont's Songs in Black and White since we put it out, just to refresh myself with the material too. A lot of things about that record that I guess I wish I knew at the time, recording it wise. I think that there was just like a lot of technical errors that could have been improved, but I think the farther I get away from it, the more charming it becomes. The more it's just like, hindsight's 20/20, but knowing where I'm at now and how careful I can be working on things, it's really cool to listen to something that's done. It's not perfect. It's just, it is what it is. And I'd highly recommend you guys dial in JT Fremont's Songs in Black and White. If and when you get the chance. Some quieter, mellow stuff I checked out this last couple weeks. I revisited the Weepies record, Say I'm Not You. I loved that record when I was in college and into moving out to Montana for a year or two. It's just it's a very special, low-key kind of record. And in listening to the Weepies, I had to get back to Damien Rice because his record, Oh, is like singer-songwriter, quintessential, like mellow tunes. Like, I just respect the guy's writing so much, and I really love how unique those songs stand on their own. 9 Crimes and Volcano, The Blower's Daughter, like all of it is just so special. He's a really, really talented writer. This month is Arab American History Month, and from that, studying that a bit at work, we talked about the actress who plays Maybe on Arrested Development, Eric Michael's cousin, and she is of Arab American descent, but also found out that she did backup vocals on a record for a band that I completely forgot existed. Studying all of that brought up Fake Problems. And I was like, talk about another show I saw at the Triple Rock. I think I saw Fake Problems twice, because I'm pretty sure the first time they came through, they opened for Against Me, and the second time they came through, they were playing their own show. But regardless, I had to revisit the record Where Our Bodies Go. She sings backup vocals on a song on their last album, Real Ghost Caught on Tape. I don't think I've ever even pushed play on that record. But Where Our Bodies Go was on repeat for a summer. And I think it's called Spoken Spurs. It's the EP they put out before that record. Oh, we just loved it. And through remembering who Fake Problems are and listening to Where Our Bodies Go again, I had to look up Look Mexico, because Look Mexico was the band that opened for them, and I remember buying one of their EPs at the show, and I loved them too. I thought they were great. Now, Fake Problems has since fallen apart. Chris Farron is the guy's name. He's done a lot of solo stuff in different projects and whatever. Still active, but on his own. Fake Problems was 3 records and done. Look Mexico's still active. And I'm like, respect the game, man. Like 5,000 monthly listeners on Spotify. Heck yeah, let's go. And I listened to their record, This Is Animal Music, to reintroduce myself to them. And I still do like them. And I want to dive in deeper because they don't have a real deep catalog. That's the thing. They only have 4 full-length albums out and a couple EPs. There's a 7-inch split they did with Fake Problems, which I need to get back in the day. But, yeah, Look Mexico is like chill, indie. It's kind of math rocky. It's kind of emo in the way that Tiny Moving Parts does it, but it's a lot more Minus the Bear and a lot less Blink-182. Look Mexico's cool stuff. Benno had a couple of suggestions for us, a guitar player for Swinoda, our good friend. Checked out J. Roddy Walton and The Business, Take It As It Comes. I listened to it on my way to work last weekend. It hit me pretty abrasive first thing in the morning. But you like that kind of Black Keys style rock, the track definitely hit. But he also suggested Mac Miller, his song Ladders, and that was much more my vibe. I listened to Balloonerism a few months ago when it came out, another like post-hominous Mac Miller record. And I never listened to Mac Miller before, but my wife brought that record up. So we listened to that on a road trip, and I thought that was pretty good. But the record that Ladders is on, because Benno suggested the song Ladders, and I listened to the whole record swimming all weekend, just to and from work, just let it roll. And man, it's just got a vibe. It's bluesy, it's jazzy, and it's smooth. I got a lot of respect for that album. I thought it was great. I did not realize that was the last thing he put out before he died. So, all respect to Mac Miller. Benno also suggested the track that Mac Miller did with Miguel called Weekend. I had a little blast from the past too, because from time to time I bring up Lorna Shore because I really love certain metal. I'm real picky about the metal I like, but the metal that I really like, I just love it. And Lorna Shore, I have been into for about 2 years now. And their song To the Hellfire was like one that made me realize that you could take, call it deathcore if you want to, but it's much more technical than most deathcore. It's fine if you want to call it deathcore. I don't get too bent out of shape about genres. But back in the day when you used to hear this metal that had the blast beats and it was super fast, super grimy, I'm thinking Cannibal Corpse, I'm thinking about Pig Destroyer, I'm thinking about like these really just technical but grimy death metal bands. The audio quality was always lacking to the degree that you could only ever hear so much of what was going on, and then you had to probably be there live to really get it. Lorna Shore, To the Hellfire was the first example of something like that the technical aspects were finally starting to match the ability of the artists. And the clarity of the vocal, the speed and technical prowess that band has, and the fact that there's breakdowns in it, with that still the blast beats and all that stuff, it's just like, I fell head over heels in love with Lorna Shore. Respectfully, the Will Ramos era. I don't know what happened before that. I understand there was 2 singers prior, but that EP till now is the Lorna Shore that I'm familiar with. But when we saw them, me and my little brother saw them open for Mastodon and Gojira a couple summers ago up at the amphitheater, the Ledge Amphitheater in Waite Park. And they were fantastic. Didn't buy any merch that day other than a poster, because that's kind of become my merch item of choice, is just getting a poster from the shows. Lorna Shore was selling the new album, Pain Remains. I didn't know any songs from that record. I don't like buying vinyl at shows. It was signed. It was there. I should have grabbed it, because I've started to see some clips of some songs from the Pain Remains album. I don't know the backstory. I want to get into it, but long story short, it seems like Will Ramos must have lost someone, whether it was a brother or a relative or someone. He lost someone, because this album is ending with these breakdowns and these like open parts where he's basically saying like, a world without you isn't meant for me, and then they just tear it apart and the bottom falls out, and it's just epically brutal, and it's so good though. And there's like an actual, like a real raw emotional element to this style that I've never felt or heard before. And so I've spent, in the last couple of weeks, I've been spinning Lorna Shore's Pain Remains and really getting to know it, because there's songs on there that I saw them play at that show that I forgot about, like Sun Eater and Into the Earth, and it's brutal. It's so good though. I love Lorna Shore. I'd fight people about Lorna Shore. Obviously, I was talking about the cassettes. I spun Hot Water Music's Feel the Void. That's one that I recently have listened to and read the lyric sheet through. I have found my songs on it that I do like. It's not a Hot Water Music Phoning It In record. It's the first one with Chris Felwell. And I hope I said his last name right. Chris Cresswell. I don't remember. But regardless, he does good work. And there's some real catchy choruses. There's some real great lines. And in particular, Chris Wallard, I want to say, on Feel the Void, he's on fire. His vocals on that record, he's not phoning it in. He brings the heat, man. Sam I Am's Astray, had to spin that again on, like, these are all the cassettes, like just keeping the vibe going with that record. Really enjoyed doing that episode, and having that tape now has just got me listening to that record like on a regular basis. In the Oyster World, Banana Whip is the name of that tape. Waited until I was on a ride with the family, because Kaylin, that was the tape she actually wanted to buy it, because she really loved their set when they opened for Tiny Moving Parts. You can see a clip of them on our YouTube channel. It's wild. It's experimental. It's chaotic. It's busy. It's got a lot of just different kinds of elements to it. It's a special tape, man. I was happy to listen to it. Some more cassettes that I went through in that box. The ones I basically just listen to them, and then I catalog them in my my Discogs account, and I'm gonna be voting them out. But I still wanted to spin them at least once just to see what they're all about. We're gonna keep the Dolly Parton tape. I've got one called The Best There Is. And it's only got 8 songs on it, but Jolene's on there, and 9 to 5 is on there, and I gotta say, man, it rocks. It's really good. The Tim McGraw tape, Not a Moment Too Soon, does not rock. I did not like it at all. Don't get me wrong, it's quintessential 90s country, and there's a lot of admirable things about 90s country, but I can't do it right now. I think it's a time, and it's a place, and it's a scene for me, and I'm not there right now, and it made me sick. Two Sides of Victor Borg, piano, old, just, yeah, it's supposed to be comedy, but it's all just piano stuff. I don't know. Amos and Andy and the Jack Benny Show. These are like radio shows that they're like storytelling, like over the radio and stuff like that. The Jack Benny one was awesome because there was a commercial on it. Like, it was like a spoken, like it was like a product placement, or it was like an ad at the beginning of side B, or side 2 on the cassette, and it was an ad for Lucky Strike. And the show was from like 1948. One side was 1948 and the other side was 1950, and it's just like, it's a time capsule. It is really, really wild. But the last tape that I listened to was Unforgettable, Nat King Cole. And we listened to quite a fair amount of Sinatra in our house. And I was really interested to hear how similar Nat King Cole was to Sinatra. So that was all right. I'll trade it out, but it didn't bug me as much as some of the other ones. It also sounded a little warbly towards the end of side 2, and I was like, I think this tape has seen better days. But these are ones that all came with the box that, like I say, my wife got me this box for $2, and really I just wanted it for the travel case, but figured why not go through it and see what we got in there. But a few records that have been on the turntable. Like I say, when we got the browsing bin set up, the first record that my wife wanted to put on was one of her Sinatra records. September of My Years was the one that we put on. And then our Easter listening for today, the kids wanted to listen to their Bluey soundtrack. And then when my dad come over, I got to put on the Elvis record we have, which the one that we have is That's the Way It Is. It's one of the later ones. And then we put on Kaylin's newer Dolly Parton record she got for her birthday a couple of years ago called Run Rose Run. So, other than that, my mom was bringing up the new Linkin Park stuff. My little brother picked up the new LP. I guess they're real excited about the new female singer and stuff like that. I'm kind of at a take it or leave it kind of point. I checked it out. I checked it out when it first came out and was very much that way. They brought it up, so we put a couple videos on the TV to just kind of check it out. And I didn't have anything good or bad to say about it. It's just kind of like, yep, that's Linkin Park. There you go. But then with that, I had to ask my mom if she knew Sleep Token, because it's not that far off. I realized that we are kind of in that same ballpark. I obviously think there's something very different with what's going on with Sleep Token than there is with Linkin Park. But if you like genre blending music, which is what Linkin Park kind of was known to do, Sleep Token is that band right now, I think. So I put on some of their tracks for them to check out as we were kind of just visiting and had a nice brunch for Easter. And yeah, I think that about sums it up as far as what have we been listening to for the last couple weeks. One thing I'm definitely excited to get into is in talking about Tim Kasher. Right before the episode, I found out he has a Patreon called Home Phone. It's Tim Kasher's Home Phone. Look it up on Patreon. It's free to check out. And he's got songs on there that are like, over the last 30 years, he's just been piling them up. It's just his notebook. And he's doing some live streams. He's doing some exclusives. He's going to be dropping songs that are on his original, or songs that are like ones that he's working on. But then he also, from time to time, drops unreleased songs from the last 30 years, he says. $6 a month to get full access, free account. You get to skim through it, and there are songs to listen to, and there's stuff you can see. So Tim Kasher's Home Phone is definitely somewhere where I'm going to be spending some time. Yeah, I think that about wraps it up for me. Like to thank you guys for tuning in again. Obviously, always got to mention what we're going to be talking about next time. Kind of go from Bright Eyes to the Good Life, which is, Cursive's realm. And that's a good segue. And I didn't intentionally do it, but Cursive, Tim Kasher's other band, had a split back in the day with Small Brown Bike, and Small Brown Bike is who's on deck next. We're going to talk about Dead Reckoning in 2 weeks, which I'm very excited, because now we're starting to get to something that never really had any commercial success whatsoever. But what info am I going to be able to dig up? What kind of fun facts and things about where it was recorded and how it was written and all that sort of stuff? There's got to be a point, I would think, that some records I'm just not going to be able to find that much info on, but I'm absolutely going to do my best to see what I can find, and I'm not going to, if I got an idea for what record I want to talk about, I'm just going to throw it up there, and we're just gonna get into it. So yeah, with that, like I said, you want to support the show, grab a mug out of the merch shop, hit the like button, subscribe to the channel, share it with your peoples, leave me a comment, let me know what you think, and until next time, take care.